What's going on, everybody? It's Necker57, your virtual car friend, and today we are wearing a DW 5600 SG, nice silver with kind of a mirrored face, kind of an elegant watch, and this is the cold hard truth of the last great era of cars and why modern cars suck. Now, I'm just gonna get right into it, so you guys can start arguing down there in the comments. I think that the 90s were the last great era of cars, and it's something that we'll never be able to experience again. Modern cars, they just don't stack up. But how did we get here? To give you guys a little bit better insight, let's start from the beginning, and I'm gonna talk about, what I consider were all the great eras in car history, and that'll give the story of how we ended up here. All right, so we'll start with pre-war. Pre-war cars are gonna be, from the 20s and 30s up until America's entry into World War II. At this point, cars have solidified themselves into modern American society, and they're affordable enough that they can be purchased by the common man. Art Deco styling creates some of the most beautiful designs to ever roam the streets. And year-over-year refinements, they're giving us a glimpse of what can be with car production, what's possible as we get into the late 30s and the big swooping fenders are kind of leaving the stage. It's a new and exciting era and the genesis of the modern car. The post-war era, while loved by a lot of people, really is what I consider just a stepping stone into the next great car era, which is the muscle car era. After styling experiments involving enormous fins and way too much chrome of the 50s, the sleek styling of the 60s is really a breath of fresh air, and it creates some of the most widely sought after cars to this day. Lasting from the late 60s to the early 70s up until the first gas crisis, the muscle car era really created the car guy as we know it today. Now, these car guys get older, but the cars, they stay the same age. Well, the cars do get older too, but you get what I'm saying. You get the joke. The cars stay the same. After waking up from the dream and the highest of highs that was the muscle car era, we are awoken to reality. Dismal reality, and the lowest of lows that is the Malaise Era. Lasting from the early 70s up until mid to late 80s, this is easily the worst era in automobile history. It was created by a combination of oil scares coupled with government mandates becoming the norm and forcing themselves into car design and car styling. It's not until the 80s that things kind of start to get turned around with these government regulations easing and cars actually being able to have a little bit of styling again, as well as the big credit boom of the 80s that drives technological innovation. The future is now. Everything is digital.
What the hell is this?
Unfortunately, while the spirit was willing, the capacitors at the time weren't able. Nearly all the future technology that was used in the Malaise era, it's ditched, later in the decade in favor of more reliable analog stuff. I'm looking at you digital speedometers and the return to the analog sweep gauge that we all know and love. They were almost there, but they were just a little bit too precocious. With this, we enter the last great era of cars, simply called the 90s, where all these futuristic cars of the 80s were simply 60s and 70s technology with a digital dash taped to them. The 90s was the official entry into the modern car era. Manufacturing has finally caught up with automotive technology, and things like fuel injection, dual overhead cams, ECUs, and the unibody have been perfected to this point that they're not only usable, but downright reliable. The 90s is the perfect storm. Advancements in suspension and engine technology, but still analog enough to where you feel like you're in control of the car. You're still driving the car. The technology complements the car without overpowering it, while still being reliable and allowing for plenty of serviceability. The styling shift from the 80s to the 90s is it's almost like night and day, with the Japanese leading the charge in defining the era. It's almost comical to think that these two cars, the 1992 Mazda RX-7 and the 1992 Chevrolet Camaro, graced dealerships at the same time. The 90s for Japan was like the 60s for America, in that they created some of the most iconic cars in such a short amount of time. Cars that are forever going to be sought after, just like the muscle cars that the Americans made in the 60s. Don't get it twisted that the 90s were all about the Japanese. The Americans were there too, they were just a little slower to catch on. You might even argue that Ford entered the 90s in 1986 with the release of the Ford Taurus. The C4 Corvette, which was released in 1984, while it was a great chassis, the engine just wasn't there, the powertrain wasn't there, and it didn't find itself until the 90s when technology caught up. With the updated styling and the LT LT1, LT4, the Corvette, after 30 years, was finally back in the 90s. And Dodge, well, Dodge was still Dodge, but hey, we got the Viper.
If Chrysler isn't a performance company, then I'm Joe Isuzu.
Unfortunately, just like the muscle car wars, all good things must come to an end. Further government encroachments on safety and efficiency, as well as the Japanese economy returning to Earth, created what I call the postmodern era in about 2008, with the final nail in the coffin for the last great era of cars being the release of the 2008 Subaru WRX. Subaru, this amazing, quirky, goes by its own rules company that consistently released some of the greatest cars in the 90s. Something happened in 2008. You know, I don't know what it was. I guess we'll never know. All right, so that brings us to today, the postmodern era, the postmodern car. Performance cars are the fastest they've ever been, with even non-performance cars, the lowly Camry, being able to best even the greatest of the 90s champs in a straight line. So why does the postmodern era suck? Same reason why the 90s were great: technology. Technology has now leaked into every facet of the car, places where it has no business and outright doesn't belong. And electronic nannies have not only limited and dulled the driving experience, but they've slowly crept the price of the car up till it's really no longer affordable to the common man. The average new price for a car at the filming of this is $48,000. $48,000. Who's buying these cars? Isn't the average, like, the median income in America is like $45,000, $50,000? $48,000 for a car? What's going on here? And trucks were the worst offenders. There's no reason that a half-ton truck should cost $70,000, $80,000, $100,000. I'll turn it off. So who's to blame? The American consumer. The yuppie boom of the 80s is happening all over again, only this time it's basically with the entire middle class and even the lower class of America. And because the car guy is slowly dying, the normie is now taking over. The normie sees a tablet on the dash of their car and they think, oh my God, this is so advanced and cutting edge technology. This is amazing. The future is now. A car guy sees a tablet on their dash and they think, why are all my systems being routed through this one single point of failure that has no buttons, that has no tactile feedback, that will break? This sucks. This is shit. And then finally the manufacturer sees that and they say, you know, if we don't have to make those buttons, we can save 75 cents per unit. We're gonna make a killing putting this piece of shit in the car. And those idiots are gonna eat it up. They're gonna think it's fancy. Another big issue of modern cars is the styling of the cars themselves. Everything is big grille, angry car, and ever stricter collision standards from the big guy. They've raised the belt line of the cars so high that you have the visibility of a fucking APC. You can't see out of these things. And because no one can see anything, backup cameras have become mandated in cars, along with a bevy of other idiot sensors that contribute to the dumbing down of the American people. Checking my mirror when I'm backing up? Nope, no thank you. I'm just gonna stare right at this fucking screen and have no situational awareness while I'm backing out. Changing lanes? Am I gonna check my blind spot? No. But I'm just gonna change lanes. If someone's there, the car's gonna beep. And if it doesn't beep, well, guess what? I'm just gonna sue. I'll sue the manufacturer. Nothing's my fault. Now trucks, because they can skirt around a lot of these rules, manufacturers have kind of placed them there as the number one choice. They've been artificially placed there like the CIA would put a dictator in a banana republic country. And so they've become bigger and bigger. And this has created an arms race among the neighborhood dads on who can get the truck with the biggest grill, the smallest bed, for the highest price, and manufactured at the lowest cost. All this so they can LARP as a general contractor to the other dads at the dog park. This has all but killed a sedan because the biggest normies of all, wives, well, they have to get in the arms race too. They have to be higher too. And wives, let me tell you, they're just moms, but bigger bitches. So this causes hatchbacks to want to identify as SUVs now. Get a little, 2-inch lift on it. Throw some body cladding on it. It's an SUV now. Well, not quite. You'll never be an SUV. They had to create a new market for that. They had to call it CUV because it's a crossover. It's a car and a truck. No, that's not how it works. The 90s was a perfect storm of auto manufacturing. It was the perfect mesh of advanced electronics and years of technological development coming together perfectly to create some of the greatest cars we've ever seen. The postmodern era, on the other hand, is technology run amok, and its usage not advancing the car itself, but rather advancing the bottom line. It's the better option because it's the cheaper option, and that's not how it should be. It's like when companies tell you they're gonna go green. You know, oh, don't mail a bill anymore. Go green and help us save trees. Get all your bills online. Or like water bottle peddlers, when you get a bottle of water and it's like, we're using 50% less plastic to help save the planet. And like the water bottle's all shitty and the cap is like tiny, you know, like there's like 2 threads on it to close the cap. They're not doing that because they love the planet, guys. They're doing it to make false profits. Not like false profit like someone is saying they're God, but profits. False profits. You're not fooling anybody though, you fucking companies. You're doing that to make more money. You're not doing that for any other reason. Not to save the earth, not to be better for your customer. It's all to make more money. And that's exactly what the OEMs are doing now, forcing this garbage down our throat. Use a fucking tablet for your speedometer. That's advanced technology. It's amazing. Don't use a normal gauge. Have a tablet on your dash that does everything. That's actually fancy and advanced. No, dude. In a world where engine manufacturing has become so advanced that 20-weight oils have all but become the norm, the Achilles tire of the postmodern car will always be the electronics. In 20 years, when the tablets that the manufacturers have bolted onto the car no longer work and the OEMs have long since stopped supporting them, a switch will still be a switch. Because the hubris of these auto manufacturers and their belief in Deus Ex Machina, these cars, they simply fly too close to the sun. But their wings made of Chinese electronics will soon melt, and the earth will be littered with their carcasses. I'm Nick57, guys. Let me know what you think. Well, what in your opinion was the last great era of cars? Did you think the Malaise era was a great era? If you do, you're wrong. But tell me why you think you're not wrong down in the comments. Check out discord.gg/feed and make sure you check out this sick new shirt, H-Gen and CCF collab. You can get it at h-genuine.com. Thanks for watching, everybody. Join the Discord, join the Patreon, and I'll see you later. Oh, I fucked that all up.